I slammed my truck door shut so hard the side mirror rattled, dust rising under my boots as I stared at the gleaming metal gate that now blocked my own driveway. There it was, triple padlocked, a fresh chain so thick it looked like something off a Navy battleship. And standing right next to it, sipping lemonade like she owned the whole world, was Judith Pinner, the newly elected president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association. Clipboard in one hand, smug grin stretching wider than the gate itself. I hadn't even been home 10 minutes since returning from the off-road rally in Arizona, but already my blood pressure was climbing like Goliath on a junkyard ramp. She gave me a cheery wave, pointed to a laminated sign bolted to the gate. Private HOA access only. It was the same road I had paved with my own savings 10 years ago, when the county wouldn't touch it and the HOA didn't even exist. That road led to my home, my garage, and most importantly Goliath, my monster truck. And there she was, acting like this was some bake sale, not a hostile land grab. I just stared for a second, trying to make sense of it. Judith was always a thorn, writing people up for lawn flamingos and holiday lights. But this was war. Apparently, while I was out crushing scrap cars and signing autographs for kids in Arizona, the HOA had called an emergency vote and installed a gate right across the shared access road. Only it wasn't shared, not legally. I had exclusive deed rights to that stretch of dirt and gravel. I asked her what the hell she thought she was doing. She tapped her clipboard, said I had violated Article 6, Section 3 of the HOA guidelines, something about leaving industrial vehicles visible from the road. She meant Goliath, the truck I'd built from the frame up. Tires taller than a compact car, custom shocks, paint job that could blind you in daylight. I told her she was out of bounds, that the road wasn't under HOA control, that I had a surveyor's documentation to prove it. She smiled like I was some lost child, and said if I so much as touched the gate, she'd fine me for trespassing. Told me the gate was part of a beautification project. Beautification, like blocking someone from their own home was landscaping. I tried to argue, but she just walked away, called her so-called security guy over, some clown named Rick with a shiny badge he clearly bought online, and sat down in a lawn chair by the gate like she was waiting for a parade. I drove down to the gas station a few miles away just to get cell reception. Called the county assessor's office. They confirmed what I already knew. Judith and her HOA had no legal claim to that road or my property. But until some official process got moving, I was stuck. I called the sheriff's office. They sent a deputy who filed a report and said to resolve it civilly. Civilly. With a woman who locked me out of my house and was now sunbathing next to a chain link like it was her pool cabana. I booked a cheap motel in town that night. Sat on the stiff mattress, staring at the ceiling fan going nowhere fast. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years, not anger, not frustration. Betrayal. This wasn't just HOA nonsense. This was personal. And as I stared at the old duffel bag of rally gear at the foot of the bed, my eyes drifted to the small key fob inside. Goliath's key. 2 days later, I had Marcus on the phone. We served in the Army together's a land use attorney now. I sent him photos, scanned documents, the coordinates, even a copy of the plat map. An hour later, he called me cussing like we were back in basic. Said not only was the gate illegal, but Judith had filed false easement paperwork. She'd committed fraud using the HOA logo on something the HOA had no authority to control. That gave me hope, but lawsuits take time. Weeks. Months. And Judith knew it. That was her game stall. Pressure. Exhaust. She was betting I'd fold before the truth caught up with her. She didn't know who she was dealing with. I went back to my storage unit outside town. Rolled up the door, flipped on the lights, and there she was. Goliath. Big, mean, unapologetically loud. I climbed up, sat in the cab, and stared through the windshield like I was staring down fate. I didn't rev her up that night. I planned. Installed cameras. Caught HOA landscapers trespassing on my land, dumping fertilizer along my driveway. One even said, on camera, Judith wants this green by next week for her HOA mixer. I added it to the pile. Marcus filed the formal complaint with the county clerk, zoning board, sheriff, and state licensing. Meanwhile, I prepared Goliath. New shocks, calibrated throttle, polished chrome. I mounted a PA speaker and installed a rear LED display that read, Private Property Enforcement Unit. It was a joke, but Goliath wasn't laughing. Then came Saturday. I knew Judith would put on a show. And she did. Camera crew. Press statement. wine and cheese for her HOA loyalists by the gate. That was fine. I had a camera crew too. Mine was mounted on the roof of a 12,000-pound truth machine. I parked just out of sight, then crested the hill slowly, Goliath humming low. Neighbors stepped out. Phones went up. I stopped just short of the gate, hit the loudspeaker, and said, clear as a bell, this is private property. This gate is an illegal obstruction. You have 60 seconds to remove yourselves. Silence. Then Judith, in her pink cardigan, grabbed a megaphone and barked something about HOA easements. I gave her 30 more seconds. Her security guy Rick tried to block me until I revved the engine and lit him up with both headlights. He jumped so fast his sunglasses flew off. And then, Goliath rolled forward. One lock snapped. The crowd gasped. Second one blew off like a champagne cork. Then the final padlock twisted, gave out, and the whole gate reinforced steel and all crumbled like cardboard under 66-inch tires. Goliath didn't stop until she was through. Judith just stood there, mouth open, HOA flyers fluttering from her clipboard. I parked Goliath just past the wreckage, climbed down, walked right up to Judith, and handed her a manila envelope. Inside were the county complaint, a cease and desist, and inspector findings. I told her the sheriff would be there shortly and then I walked away. That clip went viral. Local news ran it on loop. HOA Karen versus monster truck. People shared their own HOA horror stories in the comments. Goliath became a meme. Judith became a cautionary tale. She tried one last trick, sent out a newsletter calling me a threat to neighborhood integrity and proposed planting buffering foliage, which meant hedges along my driveway. That night, I found pink survey flags on my land. I pulled every last one up, bundled them neatly, and taped them to the HOA mailbox with a note. Wrong property. A week later, I hosted a barbecue. Official. Permitted. Sheriff and fire department even came by. Goliath did a slow lap around the edge of my land while the neighbors clapped. One kid shouted, "Go, Goliath, go!" Judith didn't come out, but I saw her peeking from behind the blinds. Later that week, the county issued a violation notice against the HOA for unauthorized construction. Fines were pending. Judith's email went dark. Her house went up for sale. That night, I sat on the tailgate of my truck, sipping a cold root beer, staring at Goliath parked like a sentinel by my garage. And I smiled. Not because I crushed a gate, but because I stood my ground. And folks, sometimes the law takes a while. Sometimes you gotta fight smarter, not just louder. But when push comes to padlock, and they underestimate the man with the monster truck, well, let's just say they won't make that mistake twice. What do y'all think? Did I go too far? Or did Goliath deliver the justice Judith never saw coming? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Share your HOA war stories. And don't forget to subscribe if you believe standing your ground still matters in this world.